ought to be in pictures. You're wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures. Oh, what a hit.
Hey, welcome to Deep Dive Movie Reviews. I'm Steve Hackman, and along with my friend James Marsh, we're going to be continuing our Best 5 series. And today's episode, we're going to be looking, James and I, at the top 5 films that we would take on a deserted island. James, how do we want to do this today?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Well, before we stick ourselves on a deserted island, I just want to ask everybody to please subscribe to our channel if you haven't. Ding the bell so that you are alerted whenever there is a new episode. Like the video, leave us a comment, check out one of our many other videos on this channel. We've got new reviews, we've got our Every Best Picture series, and we have our Best Fives here. So plenty to keep you going.
Well, James, I got to say right at the get-go, this list has been changing almost by the hour for me. How do you narrow down of the plethora of great films? How do we funnel it down to 5 that we would take on a deserted island? Is there any criteria that you use? We didn't set any criteria,
right?
But what was your ideas in your head?
Well, yeah, I mean, right off the bat, I think we need to acknowledge this is an exercise in complete futility. Yes. There is no way that I would want to be stuck on a desert island at all, or with only 5 movies to watch. And I resisted the temptation. My initial reaction was, okay, well, let me see what are my 5 favorite films. But I resisted that temptation for a number of reasons. I was like, I don't want these to be my 5 favorite films because, 1 or 2 of my favorite films aren't the most rewatchable either. But then I kind of thought about that. I was like, a lot of the films that I love and I watch over and over and over again, I know them back to front. And I think lying on a beach on my own on a desert island, I could probably replay them in my head sufficiently that I wouldn't need to have them with me on a desert island. So I was, going back and forth about all these things. And I think in the end, I just had to pick films for different reasons, each one. And I'm sure we'll go through these one at a time. But I think for me, there really was, obviously they're films I love and they're films that mean something to me personally. But beyond that, I think there was very specific and very different criteria for each one that I'll get into as I name them. How about you?
Actually, I had a similar thought going through my head. I didn't want this to be my top 5. I consciously eliminated. I mentioned I had a caveat, and James knows 2 of my top favorite movies of all time are Casablanca and The Godfather. But I don't want those films to be in every top 5 list that we do. It's like when we did our top 5 Christmas movies. Everybody always puts It's a Wonderful Life, and it becomes a little bit boring if we already know that. I'd love to know what some of the other items and films that you would think were worthy of, in that case, top 5 Christmas. In this case, top 5 I would take on a deserted island. I wanted to throw out 5 that James would go, oh, I hadn't thought of that. Oh, yeah, whereas if I say Casablanca, you're going to, oh, of course, it's Steve. It's going to be Casablanca. So I tried to come up with 5 that I genuinely love these films. Every one of these 5, I love them. I could rewatch them. And it ticks certain emotional needs that I have in a film. The feel good. There's no bad endings in any of these films. So,
well, why didn't you? Okay, well, why don't you kick us off? Why don't we start with your top 5 desert island movies?
There we go. In no particular order. This is not meant to be a particular order.
Oh no, the order is that there are only 5 of them.
There's only 5. So I'll say the first film that I would take on a deserted island is the 1992 Rob Reiner directed, based on an Aaron Sorkin play, A Few Good Men. I think this is one of the tightest dialogue films ever created. The ensemble that you have, Jack Nicholson, Demi Moore, Tom Cruise, Kevin Bacon, the late great J.T. Walsh. This movie just ticks every button. I can watch this film anytime, any place. I wanted to go and be a lawyer one day after seeing this film. So yes, my first choice would be A Few Good Men, the Aaron Sorkin adapted, Rob Reiner directed film.
Fantastic pick. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Love it. Okay. Yeah, eminently quotable, rewatchable. Love it.
Yes, great classic lines, everything. I'm going to do all five. My second one, you may not consider it as brilliant a choice, but I'm going to choose the 1997 Robert Zemeckis directed film starring Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey, based on the book by Carl Sagan, Contact.
Okay.
For me, I've watched this film over the years so many times. It just really ticks the boxes for me of the interchange of science and religion. You know, I come from a religious background, a particular religious background that didn't always value science the way it probably needs to be valued. And so when I was coming to terms with kind of my background's refusal to get on board with science, I started reading Carl Sagan. And for me, this film just captures some of the wonder of the universe, the optimism of what humanity could possibly achieve one day. It exudes that Carl Sagan enthusiasm. There's wonderful performances by Jodie Foster, a very early Matthew McConaughey. You're even going to find Rob Lowe in this film playing a right-wing senator, you know, when he says, you know, we're not even really sure if these aliens believe in God, you know. And for me, it's just and the great scene at the end where James Woods is grilling Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster, who as a scientist will only do things based on empirical evidence. And then she has this experience that she cannot empirically defend. And she has to go on faith, but she doesn't expect anybody else to believe her. In fact, she has to admit that as a scientist, this is all just nonsense, but she cannot deny it. When James Woods says, then why don't you just deny that this journey you say you took never happened? And she just breaks down, because I can't.
Admit that if you were in our position, you would respond with exactly the same degree of incredulity and skepticism.
Yes.
Then why don't you simply withdraw your testimony and concede that this journey to the center of the galaxy, in fact, never took place?
Because I can't.
And it's just a wonderful, powerful scene. I love this movie. Contact, 1997, Robert Zemeckis.
Fantastic. That's a film I came to really, really late. I remember when it came out, kind of being on the fence about it and never got around to watching it. And only after Interstellar came out and people started making, also Matthew McConaughey, of course, and people started making a lot of comparisons, favorable comparisons to Contact, did I go back and watch it. And I didn't realize that it's based on Carl Sagan writing.
Yes.
So
yeah, it's based on a Carl Sagan book. And, you know, Contact for me actually is the pinnacle of the genre, which I should mention Interstellar, and another not recognized film, which I think is great, but is often ignored because it follows in the footsteps of its predecessor, is the sequel to 2001, 2010 with Roy Scheider. I love that film. And again, like Contact, it captures the wonder of the universe, the potential of humanity. It has this optimistic undertone throughout the whole film. I really resonate with those kind of films. I couldn't choose all of these. I had to pick one, and I went with Contact. Okay, number 3 is, we're going all the way back to 1948. George Sidney directed, starring Gene Kelly, Lana Turner, Van Heflin, Vincent Price, June Allison, Angela Lansbury. We've got The Three Musketeers.
Wow.
One of my all-time favorite adaptions of the famous Alexander Dumas novel. It's Gene Kelly in his absolute glory. The fighting scene, when I first saw this as a kid watching this with my dad, I was in heaven. The storyline, it's not just guys fighting with swords. The dialogue in this film, the depth of the politics that's happening, the intrigue, the exchanges. And Van Heflin's Athos was my hero growing up. His lines in this are, I wanted to be this guy. I didn't want to be Gene Kelly. I didn't want to be D'Artagnan. I wanted to be Athos. When D'Artagnan goes to him to try to get him out of his stupor and to come fight for the bigger cause, and Athos just says, is there a chance we could die? Yeah, we'll probably die. To die among friends. Can the world ask for more? No. Can a man ask for more? Can the world offer less? Then he grabs the tankard. Who wants to live until the last bottle is empty? Here we go, and there's these great lines. I was speaking of women. You have to see it. I can't run down every aspect of this film in the short time that we have, but I love this film. I would definitely take it on a deserted island. I need to have something from the golden age of Hollywood. So 1948's The Three Musketeers.
Well, I have to confess, I've never seen it.
Oh, do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor. I'll even watch it with you sometime. I'll watch it anytime, any place. It is such an enjoyable film, and much better than any recent adaptations.
Okay. Is it as good as Dogtanian and the Three Muskehounds, though? The animated series? Because
I didn't see that. I really can't compare.
That was on TV like all the time when I was a kid. So
I can say for sure that it's better than the Charlie Sheen version.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a low bar. But yeah.
Okay. And then number 4 is the 1994 film based on a novel or novella by Stephen King, starring Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman. You know what it is. You're nodding your head. Shawshank Redemption.
Nice. Yeah, it's a classic.
Classic. It's rewatchable. I just love the story from beginning to the end. The thing I love about it is in the name. You know me, I'm a sucker for films about redemption. Morgan Freeman is at the top of his game in this film. Just all around, I love this. I love the themes. I love the sense of justice. I love seeing the bad guys get it at the end. I love seeing Tim Robbins, after 20 years, climbing through a tunnel full of shit to reach heaven and then bringing his friends along with him. Love this film. I'll take it on a deserted island.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it's an indisputable classic. I think it's still the number one film on IMDb. I think the most sort of popular film of all time. I've got very little to say. The one thing I will say is I think when I was picking my list, I think I tried to avoid anything about being stuck somewhere or trying to escape from somewhere. I think just because I'm not sure if it would do me the world of good mentally.
Being stuck on a deserted island and watching a guy stuck in
watching a guy escape time and time again. I'll be like, damn it. But it's a great movie for sure.
And then the last one, again, like Contact, I needed a film that would encapsulate a certain theme of which I would need to have. And so the movie I'm going to mention now, there are a number of films in this genre that I could have brought, and I chose one, and that is the 1989 sports fantasy based on a novel by W.P. Kinsella, Shoeless Joe, starring Kevin Costner. It is Field of Dreams.
Right.
And I'm a huge baseball fan. I watch just about every baseball movie. Probably one of the reasons this was my last pick of the 5. And this slot has vacillated over the last 3 or 4 days with a number of other films. But I have to admit, baseball season has started in America. I've subscribed to MLB. I've been watching my Detroit Tigers and my Colorado Rockies this week. I'm in a baseball mood. So I have to concede that this 5th and final pick is probably heavily influenced by the sense of baseball nostalgia that I've been feeling this last week. Having said that, it was really a toss-up whether it was going to go, a baseball movie was going to be this, Field of Dreams, or what I think is the other truly great baseball film is Bull Durham, both of which star Kevin Costner. But for me, Field of Dreams,
he does love his sports movie.
He does, there's the trifecta for the love of the game, the other baseball movie he does. And then there's Tin Cup, the golf movie. So, which I enjoy as well. So those are my 5. Any thoughts on Field of Dreams, James, before we turn it back to you?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm a big fan of Field of Dreams. I don't think I've watched it in a long time. Mm-hmm. But I do like it. I remember being very sort of teary-eyed. And obviously, as we've highlighted time and again, as a Brit, I don't have the same nostalgia for baseball per se. It's probably the one American sport that I just don't get, and we play cricket. Which is a game nobody gets if they don't play. but I understand what it means and what it represents, and you know that it's something more than just a game and sport and all the rest of it. And yeah, and it's a beautiful story, just about, you know, letting go of the ghosts of the past and finding peace and again redemption and resolution and all of that kind of stuff.
You know, and my dad passed away, as you know, a year ago. And so I don't have him anymore. And we used to play catch together. We played baseball together. And so now, I mean, I watched that movie so many times with my dad alive. I think I recently rewatched it, and now the ending is just so much more meaningful. The idea that there's a possibility that one day, in whatever place there is, if there is after we go from here, that I could play a catch with my dad again. Just yeah. So that's my 5, James.
Fantastic choices.
Yeah, thanks. I'll turn it back to you. Look forward to hearing your 5.
Okay. All right. Well, I feel incredibly gaslit now because one of the films on my 5 list, and I will start with it because it makes sense, is Casablanca.
Oh.
Because I wanted something from classic Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know, I needed something to represent that sort of, you know, the black and white studio era. And I kept trying to be clever about it.
Right.
You know, and go with, well, how about Citizen Kane, or how about some Jimmy Stewart? But for me, my go-to, you know, classic Hollywood guy is Humphrey Bogart. Mm-hmm. And there's just no beating Casablanca. You know, it's got it all. And it has an unhappy ending, but it also has a satisfying resolution. You know, it sort of mends a broken heart and sets him on a new path towards doing something fun and something adventurous. You know that him and Claude Rains are going to get up to no good. You know, that's not going to be a kind of legit healthy relationship, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, it's just so sort of quintessential that everything else that I sought out would just felt like a poor imitation. It felt like a second stringer. You know, it felt like I'm only taking that because I don't want to do the cliche and take Casablanca. But I just kept circling back around and being like, you know what? I want to take Casablanca. And so I'm going to take Casablanca. So
if I had a real 5 and I would be taking Casablanca. That was my caveat. The reason I don't feel gaslit, I've been much more vocal about Casablanca than you. So I didn't want to be, I wouldn't have taken Casablanca as a given for you, although I certainly understand it. Right. So no, I obviously thoroughly approve of that choice.
Oh, good. Because, yeah, I mean, if I was doing a proper real top 10, I'm not even sure if Casablanca would be on it, because I think I'd want to choose films that were more personal to me, that were more mine. I mean, Casablanca is great and everybody knows it and everybody loves it. Right. So there's something about it. It's like supporting Michael Schumacher, watching Formula One, or Federer at Wimbledon. You know, they're just machines. They just win all the time, and so there's no sense of adventure in supporting them, if you like, because they're just going to win every time. And so I've always been a kind of a champion of the underdog, but at the same time with Casablanca, I was just, you know, I just needed something that was just emblematic of that. Anyway, I'm glad you allow it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now. What to go next? My second one. Okay, so this is where I'm going to put on my pretentious bore hat. And I thought, okay, well, I do want something from world cinema, and I do want something from Asian cinema. And this is a film that I absolutely love, but I've only seen a couple of times, and the reasons for that will become immediately obvious. My second pick is Akira Kurosawa's The Seven Samurai.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Which, as Akira Kurosawa is probably one of my favorite directors of all time. Definitely my favorite Asian filmmaker. You know, he's absolutely superb. You know, he's a great drama, action, intrigue, you name it. You know, he's a real artist, and he can do epics and he can do intimate chamber pieces. You know, he's unparalleled. And Seven Samurai is arguably, you know, his masterpiece. But the reason why I don't watch it very often is because let's be fair, it's a 3-hour black and white Japanese movie, and so it's such an investment to watch it that I think I've seen it probably all the way through twice, and it's undeniably great. It's a rip-roaring adventure. It ticks the boxes for action movies. It ticks the boxes for a Western even. You know, a lot of these old samurai movies are essentially the templates for Westerns and vice versa. They're two genres that continued to influence each other back and forth, back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the Seven Samurai very famously remade as the Magnificent Seven, and and then Akira Kurosawa has said many times that John Ford was a huge influence upon him, and then Akira Kurosawa's films were in turn a huge influence upon spaghetti westerns. A Fistful of Dollars is a remake of his film Yojimbo,
yeah.
and so it's just this tennis match between them. And so I felt that this was a way of giving myself the opportunity to get to know Seven Samurai as a movie better. Because if it's one of only 5 movies I have, I would watch it again and again and again and get to appreciate, the different parts of it and the different elements of it in a way that I just haven't given myself the time to do here. But it would also tick the boxes as a great action movie and as a great Western as well, whilst also obviously being a great samurai movie, and has so many great actors in it like Toshiro Mifune and what's his name, Takashi Shimura, who are pillars of Japanese cinema. And so for me, I was just like, yep, this one has it all. It's the ultimate package. And what better opportunity to really immerse myself in it and explore everything that's so good about it than being stuck on a desert island with nothing else to do.
Sounds good. I'm embarrassed to say I have not seen it. I've seen The Magnificent Seven with Yul Brynner and Steve McQueen more times than I can count. That would be a contender for a deserted island for me. But I need to sit down and watch Seven Samurai with you sometime, because
I would love to do that.
I'm embarrassed to say that it is it's missing in my resume here.
Well, no, I mean, we've talked before about how we want to cover more Asian cinema and how you want me to give recommendations.
Yeah.
The films of Akira Kurosawa are a brilliant place to start.
Perfect.
They're so accomplished and accessible and entertaining and masterworks, as good as anything from the golden era of Hollywood. So I look forward to doing that. Okay,
good.
My third choice, as you know, as we have talked about on this podcast before, I'm a huge James Bond fan.
Mm-hmm.
And while it is true that I do know all of these movies back to back,
can I mentally guess which one you're going to pick?
You can.
Okay, I've got it, and I'll be honest. Okay.
I'm it's not the most obvious pick, but it's if you've heard me talk about this before, it's my favorite because I think it represents everything that I love about the Bond franchise, and that is 1977's The Spy Who Loved Me.
Okay, it wasn't my pick. As soon as you said it wasn't going to be I had Goldfinger in my head, but
right, and I will go on record as thinking I don't think Goldfinger is anywhere close to being the best James Bond movie. Yeah. It's the one that made the franchise a phenomenon. Mm-hmm. It's the one that really became like the global blockbuster. But no, for me, I mean, for the first thing, Roger Moore is my favorite James Bond.
Right.
He just is. And this is early enough in his tenure that he hasn't quite become a parody of himself yet. Mm-hmm. It's got the great exotic locations, going down to the Mediterranean, then obviously Egypt. It's got the great, plot for world domination, which is a plot that the series actually uses about 3 times. Yeah. Which is, it's the same plot as You Only Live Twice. It's the same plot as Moonraker, really. It's just like, steal things from opposing nations so they fight each other and I can use them for my own ends. It's got a great Bond girl, great stunts. It's got Jaws, the villain. It's got sharks. It's got all the jokes. It's got the Lotus Esprit that turns into a submarine. It's got it all. It's got it all. And I was going
to add, and I think one of the best Bond theme songs.
That's
Sheena
exactly
Easton's The Spy Who Loved Me. Yeah.
No.
Oh wait. Wait. What did you say? Which didn't you say The Spy Who Loved Me?
I did. The song is Carly Simon's Nobody Does It Better.
Oh, that's right. No,
which was my wife and my first dance at our wedding.
Oh, fantastic!
Because I chose it.
Which one did Sheena Easton do?
You put me on the spot here. I think, did she do All Time High from Octopussy? Oh no, that was Rita Coolidge. Sheena Easton did For Your Eyes Only.
For Your Eyes Only. Yes, she did For Your Eyes Only. Carly Simon did A Spy Who Loved Me. Sorry, I got
Nobody Does It Better. Nobody does it better. So yeah, for me, it just does all the things that a Bond movie should, and does them, Nobody does it better. Need I say more? And
Perfect.
I needed to have one Bond movie with me, even though I know it back to front. But
I did know you were going to have a Bond film. I was expecting that, but yeah.
good stuff. Okay, so I got two more to go.
The reason I didn't choose a Bond film is I figure you would be on a deserted island close to mine, and I could borrow a copy of your Bond film. So I thought James will cover the Bond for the two of us. You know,
we're on neighboring deserted islands. Okay, that'd be good exercise. Yeah, we could swim from one to the other every day,
that's right.
avoiding the sharks and what have you. Okay, so my fourth pick. Now this is a bit of a deep cut, but it means a lot to me. It's a British film, 1987's Withnail and I. Oh, I'm getting some blank faces. If you know Richard E. Grant, it is the film for which Richard E. Grant became kind of a cult figure. It's 1987, but it's set in London 1969, where Richard E. Grant plays Withnail, and we have Paul McGann plays our narrator. In the film, and they are out of work actors struggling in the bohemia of 60s swinging 60s London that is sort of just out of their reach. They don't have any money. All they like to do is drink. They're not getting any work, and so they live in squalor. And as a last desperate attempt, Withnail reaches out to his wealthy and very overly gay uncle Monty, played by Richard Griffiths, who lends them the keys to his cottage in the countryside so they can go and get away from it all. So it's this disastrous sort of two guys go on holiday story set in 1960s England with a fantastic rock soundtrack, so many quotable lines. It's just about these two sort of raging alcoholics and how they kind of hate each other, but they love each other. You know, it's this beautiful sort of tragic platonic relationship between two best friends who are at each other's throats all the time. And it's just wonderful. And it means so much to me because, I mean, it's a great movie and it's very British, but it was a movie that we used to watch over and over and over and over again at school. You know, we just sit there because I went to a boarding school, and so we didn't get out much, and so we would, our weekends were spent sitting in the TV room, and we would watch this movie over and over and over again, to the extent that in our final year we put on a play of it.
Oh wow!
And I played Uncle Monty, the completely over the top gay uncle, who has some wonderful lines that are not broadcastable at all. It's an incredibly fruity script. And we had an absolute riot doing it. It set some unbelievable precedents in our school drama society for language used and depictions of smoking on stage and drinking on stage and drug use on stage and all of this kind of craziness. But it was one for the ages, and it really has just cemented its place in my psyche.
The things that go on at English boarding schools.
This is it. Absolutely.
See, this is where the American, I bring Field of Dreams, the American, you bring the British boarding school system. And but obviously it has that personal connection to you. So I totally get that.
It really does. It's one of the great movies that reminds me of being a teenager.
Fantastic.
And that's Withnail and I. So yeah, I'm getting the distinct impression that you haven't even heard of it. Maybe
I have not even heard of it. I mean, at least Seven Samurai is on my list of things I have to see. This wasn't even on my radar, but I am a Richard Grant fan, and I like Paul McGann, the one-time Doctor Who.
That's right. Yeah, he did that feature film, Doctor Who feature film, didn't he? Yeah. And it was produced by Handmade Films, which was George Harrison's production company. Of the Beatles fame, who also produced like the Monty Python films. I very nearly picked Monty Python and the Holy Grail, but I needed a British comedy in there.
Yeah,
but this one just has that personal
little extra
resonance in there as well. So that's there. And then for my final pick, I'm a huge lover of sort of gangster movies, crime movies. I'm a massive Martin Scorsese fan. I was like, I needed something in there that would scratch that itch, tick that box. So I went with 1990s Goodfellas.
Yep. Yeah.
It's a great movie. The soundtrack is incredible. So I thought that even if I'm not watching it per se, I could put it on and you've got this great sort of jukebox of hits going on in the background. The performances are amazing. There's an overlap with Field of Dreams. Ray Liotta is in it. I think this might be true, that he might have even got the role in Goodfellas after Scorsese saw him in Field of Dreams.
Oh, right.
Where he plays shoeless Joe Jackson, doesn't he?
Yeah. Ray Liotta had a real uptick in his career right around that time frame.
Yeah.
And I think he was spurned by Field of Dreams.
I think so. And he did a movie called Something Wild, Jonathan
Yes.
Demme movie, where he's like the bad guy in that, which is pretty cool. But this for me, it's not, I wouldn't go quite so far as to say it's like the best gangster movie or the quintessential gangster movie, but it's
because we know what that is.
We do. But this is so endlessly entertaining. It's one of the most entertaining gangster movies that refuses to pull its punches. It's violent and nasty, and
Joe Pesci in that film.
He's an absolute
am I
monster.
Funny? Am I funny? Am I being funny to you?
Am I a clown? I'm here to make you laugh. It's so much of it. It has this raw, visceral energy. I think it will just keep you alive. Watching it, it will wake you up, and it grabs you by the lapels and just shakes you nonstop and goes, these were not nice people. These were not good times. But at the same time, I'm going to make the most sort of intoxicating, irresistible movie about just incredibly bad people, and I just love it for that. I really, it's a movie. Again, I saw it came out in 1990. I was like 13 and I saw it, and I was just like, oh my goodness, this is what a gangster movie can be, and my mind was blown. So I wouldn't leave home without it.
That's great. That's good picks, and a couple I need to see in there myself. So, well, there we have it. Those are our top 5 that we would take. We've been very open with you. Now be open with us. In the comment section below, feel free to put in your top 5, or feel free to disagree with us. Let us know what that wasn't a really good pick and what you would swap out for it. James?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to hear why are we wrong? And what would you take? And while you're there, please subscribe, ding the bell, like the video, check out all of our other videos. We've got a couple of really good series going on, including Every Best Picture, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Until next episode. Take care.
Goodbye.
Pictures of what a hit you would be.